Welcome to Insurance Alert broadcast. Today we have with us Dr. S. Prakash. He is MD, Star Health. Sir, you are a doctor yourself.
Good evening.
Welcome, sir. Sir, my first question to you was ki, how was the second wave different from the first wave?
Yeah, second wave is not as same as the first wave because the second wave, uh, in fact, we thought that we are almost out of pandemic. We started relaxing. We were not following all the COVID appropriate behaviors. But when the second wave came, in fact, India was taken for a surprise. And the strain, the mutation in the second wave led to faster transmission of the disease. And in the first wave, it was only the senior citizens and people with comorbidities who are affected. But in the second wave, to our surprise, we saw younger people, 30 years, 40 years, and even people without comorbidities, just people who are obese, they were affected. And very, very pathetic to see that some of the pregnant women were affected. And we paid for those claims also. We never said that pregnancy is not covered because it is very unfortunate that a pregnant woman getting affected with COVID during the first wave, COVID in pregnant women, no much impact, no morbidity. But in second wave, the morbidity was very high. And second wave also involved the rural area. The first wave was mainly in metros, whereas second wave involved the rural areas where people were ignorant. They were not willing to take advices, and it was very difficult for us to take them to hospitals and, as doctors to, motivate them to understand science and then accept the treatment. And most important of all, out of anxiety, a lot of people went and occupied the beds. And logistically, during the first wave, we didn't have any problem regarding admission. We had the apprehension of, do we have enough ventilators? Do we have enough ICU beds? All those apprehensions were there. But during first wave, the numbers were very much in accordance or less than the capacity that we had. So India was able to face the first wave, whereas second wave, people were thronging to hospitals, number of patients waiting outside the hospitals for 1 hour, 2 hours, 6 hours, oxygen being given in ambulances and vehicles outside the hospital, ICU beds being not available for deserving patients. This is something very different. I think in my experience, we are, as a medical person also, we are facing it for the first time, where hospitals do not have matching beds and expertise, meaning that, the volume of patients were several fold higher than what medical and healthcare services can cater.
How it was different for an insurance company? Whatever you said was from the medical point of view as a doctor, but as a MD of an insurance company also, the experience and how you made the difference in both of them.
Yeah, that's a nice question. In fact, as health insurers during the second wave, lot of our own employees and their family members were affected. So with great difficulty, we were continuing our business operations without any break. We were able to offer our sales, our services, our customer care activities, and we have equipped our team and we made them understand all about COVID-19. See, COVID-19 is a pandemic disease. There are a lot of things which were evolving when it comes to treatment of COVID-19. And whatever we spoke about, ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine sulfate or convalescent plasma, were all proved to be not useful later on. So there is no standard treatment and no treatments were evolving. So it is very difficult for us to understand what is really required, what is permissible, and what is the cost. So what we did between the first wave and second wave, we identified our medical processing doctors and equipped them with all knowledge. We invited the best of the best consultants in India on infectious disease, intensivists, and pulmonologists to come and address our doctors. And we equipped them with enough knowledge so that if there is going to be a further wave, we thought that they should be able to handle the claims on time and without asking much queries. They should be able to process a claim. And the effect of that, our turnaround time, where we kept at 2 hours during the first wave, in the second wave, we are able to address 96 to 97% of the pre-authorization request. And the final claims that we get at the time of discharge, we call as enhancements. All these things we are able to settle within 60 minutes. And we also created a provision for online submission of documents for reimbursement customers, so that the online documents can be pursued and we can organize to pay the customer through electronic submission. We also created a helpline with a set of 25 to 30 doctors, multilinguistic. We have created a COVID-19 helpline through our free telemedicine services. And these doctors could talk to our customers or common public, whoever could call them. I will tell you the number of calls went fivefold higher during the second wave. And we were very glad that we were able to impart that knowledge and confidence to people who are mild disease, who are asymptomatic, and who requires only confidence. We avoided them from getting into hospital for unwarranted means. And we prevented them from getting exposed to unnecessary investigations. And we were able to handhold them for first 5 days. And when the condition warrants, we used to prompt them and help them to reach an appropriate hospital which is nearby. Apart from that, in the second wave, we also increased our approval for home quarantine. Home quarantine is a very, very important thing that has to be addressed. And because lot of people were thronging to hospital, they have mild disease, mild fever, their saturation is well maintained, but they are really only worried about getting unwell in the next few days. Just for fear, they were reaching the hospital. So in these patients, if they are being registered with a nearby hospital and through the hospital telemedicine services, if they can be monitored, they can remain at home. They can watch their vitals, their pulse, their oxygen saturation, their temperature, and then they can discuss over phone with the treating doctor in the hospital. They can be monitored. In our experience, we find that 85 to 90% of them, they get all right with home quarantine. Some 10 to 15% may require admission. They may get unwell or their fever may continue beyond 5 days. In that context, we ask them to go to the hospital, get admitted and have the necessary treatment. See, by doing like this, you are unnecessarily reducing the crowd in the hospital. And my main purpose is, I want the beds in the hospitals to be reserved for the deserving people. Just because of anxiety of one person, we should not occupy a bed, because this is required for another person who needs oxygen support, who needs a non-invasive ventilation or an ICU care. So once we educate the people and give them confidence, then naturally we can prevent overcrowding in the hospital and we can make the bed available for a deserving patient. In that way, we can save a lot of lives. Preventing a disease, treating the patient who are diagnosed with the disease, and saving as many people as possible during the pandemic, because these things came as in an unprecedented way. We cannot blame anyone. We cannot wait for the government or the regulator or the medical council to help you. Every one of us have got a role to play when there is a pandemic. And we created that COVID-19 helpline. We helped our customers. We prevented unnecessary admission in hospitals. And we made those beds available for deserving patients. And we also insisted that hospitals, as much as possible, follow the protocols that are designed by All India Institute and ICMR, so that patients need not be exposed to drugs which are not required. We saw that black fungus is common in people who are being given high doses of steroids, which could have been avoided. And exposure to radiation, CT scan taken on the first day, whenever somebody finds a RT-PCR positive, immediately running to a CT scan center, not required. As long as the patient is stable, his saturation is well maintained, and is otherwise fit. So the role of investigation is only when the patients get unwell, and the purpose of investigation is to create an influence in the mind of the doctor who has to decide on the next line of management based on the investigation report, not just for the patient to get an investigation for his satisfaction. If it is helping the doctor to decide the next line of action, then an investigation is required. I have literally seen people running with a CT scan report which shows that 40-50% of the lung is involved, but clinically they are normal. With a blood report of serum ferritin or D-dimer, which is 4-fold, 5-fold higher, they will say, sir, my report is 5-fold higher. I will forget that. How are you? Sir, I am okay, sir. Then why are you concerned? Don't worry. This requires only a follow-up. It requires caution, it requires consultation over phone with the doctor, and it requires only a follow-up. But there need not be any panic, and there need not be any rushing to the hospital, because expertise, manpower in the hospital is something very precious. And this has to be used in the best way possible. And for that, every one of us should support. That's my view.
Fantastic, sir. It was really nice talking to you, and also understanding that how things were different. What do you think the third wave is being talked about? What do you anticipate?
Looking at the predictions, the mutant strains that are emerging, and genomic analysis and study done in the Western world, there is a fear of third wave. Third wave will come. It is always better we get ourselves prepared. Information and knowledge, the right knowledge about what are the do's and don'ts, how as an organization we can be prepared, because third wave is expected to affect most of pediatric age group. Yeah. Because we have done the vaccination for elderly and the vulnerables with comorbidities. And naturally, it may allow mutant strains to develop and infect the children. So we have to be very careful. If children is affected, the whole family is affected. If there are 4 or 5 members in the family, one child affected, the whole family is affected. So we have to handle it in a very careful, empathetic, and emotional way. So training, preparing our digital platforms and our technology and other support for the customers during these times are very vital. So we are doing the required preparations, and and we pray and wish that there should be no third wave. But if there is a third wave, every organization, be it from any sector, I think they should be prepared for work from home facilities and other assistance to the families. Now it is the first wave, we treated the patient. Second wave, as I told you, there are a lot of changes in medical and in insurance operations. Third wave, apart from treating the patient, taking care of the employee, we should also be prepared to support their families.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for your time and for your things. We'll come back to you again once the things are much more better, or anything goes wrong, or if something is worse.
Let us pray Mother Nature for normalcy to restore. God bless.
Thank you, sir.
Good luck.
हमारे एडिटर इन चीफ श्री विवेक इंद्र कुमार जैन द्वारा शुरू किया गया एक छोटा सा इनिशिएटिव इंश्योरेंस अलर्ट्स आज एक विशाल मूवमेंट में तब्दील हो चुका है। भारत के कोने-कोने से हजारों इंश्योरेंस एजेंट्स, इंश्योरेंस प्रोफेशनल्स सभी हर सुबह इंश्योरेंस अलर्ट्स के समाचार और शाम को उनके न्यूज़लेटर्स की राह देखते रहते हैं। मतलब 2 साल में ये इंडिया का सबसे बड़ा और एशिया का दूसरा सबसे बड़ा डेडिकेटेड इंश्योरेंस न्यूज़ प्लेटफॉर्म बन चुका है। और अब अगर इसी रफ्तार से चीजें चलती रही तो वो दिन बिल्कुल दूर नहीं जब पूरी दुनिया में सर्वश्रेष्ठ बन जाएगा।